and welcome back to D's Nerds. I'm Michelle.
I'm Chris.
And today we are going to be reviewing Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
For the whole intro, I should just be like...
Okay, so this is the second installment in our reviews of Harry Potter. We are going to be doing all of these leading up to a ranked video of all 8 films. So today we're doing Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. And I will say up front, this is not one of our favorite ones, but it's still good. Because I think you have to remember that the worst Harry Potter is still better than a lot of other movies.
And it's better than no Harry Potter.
This is true. So, like we did last time with our Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's / Philosopher's Stone video, we're going to start out by talking about the cast. So, we had, of course, a lot of the same people that we loved from the first ones. Harry, Ron, and Hermione, Hagrid, Dumbledore, Professor McGonagall, all of those.
Snape.
Yes, Snape.
Severus Snape.
So all of those still stand. Everyone is excellent. But we have some new additions and some people that we didn't mention last time because they got bigger parts to play in this one that made them more significant and more worth talking about for this video versus the last. The first one I think we need to talk about is Professor Lockhart, played by Kenneth Branagh.
A pure genius.
Yes.
I mean, he's so awesome.
I think it is so hilarious that he is an Oscar-winning director and actor and normally does both of those things in his own movies, and he plays this role. I think that's what cracks me up in general about a lot of these actors, is that they're such big-time actors in these kids' movies and sometimes playing really absurd roles. Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. I mean, he clearly has a lot of fun with this role, and I just love his like smarmy look that he gives throughout the movie, which I think you always think I do a pretty good job. I mean, it's like just kind of hi. You know, it's really fun. And I mean, you clearly aren't supposed to like the guy, but you end up liking the guy because it's just, I don't know, there's just something about him that's very entertaining.
He's like endearingly obnoxious.
Yeah, absolutely. But we all know that guy. We all have that friend, or hopefully we aren't that friend that just really has a very high opinion of himself or herself, and you're just kind of over there going, yeah, whatever, dude, like that's great, like, but he's like, clearly he's harmless, really.
Next up is actually someone who I was sad that didn't end up appearing in another movie, and that is Christian Coulson, who played Tom Riddle, the young Tom Riddle, in this installment, and I really wish he was able to come back for Half-Blood Prince, where he would have played another decently sized role there, but I think I remember either reading or watching in one of our special features in this giant box set that he had kind of gotten too old to play the part again. And so they switched to a different actor. But I thought he did a phenomenal job of playing a young Voldemort. Oh,
absolutely. I mean, he's really the first actor that we see playing Voldemort like live action. I mean, outside of the little part at the end of the Sorcerer's Stone, which was all CGI. I mean, he's really the first one to play live action Voldemort for all intents and purposes. And I think he does a great job of setting the tone for that character for the rest of the series.
Well, and one thing they always say about Voldemort or Tom Riddle when he was young is that he was very charming and very disarming, and you can definitely see how with this actor that really worked well, because it even takes Harry a moment once he's down in the chamber to make the connection of something being off, you know, after he's gone into the diary and seen all of this. So he definitely has had those good qualities in his acting that I think played that really well. Next up, we've got to talk about the Malfoys. So we skipped talking about Draco in the first one because Draco's role in the first one seems so minimal. He has a much bigger part to play in the second one because, of course, for a large chunk of the movie, we're supposed to believe that it's possibly Draco who is the heir of Slytherin. And so Tom Felton just kills it as Draco.
Oh, Tom Felton, you're awesome.
The Potter thing.
Potter!
Every time. Love it.
We just saw the thing on one of the social medias. It was like
he was doing a competition. It was a Potter off.
Yeah, that was really awesome.
Yeah, to see who could do the best Potter. So that was fun.
I think I can do pretty well with it, personally.
And then of course we got his dad, who plays a large role in this one as well. That's Lucius Malfoy. And he is played by Jason Isaacs, who actually voiced Batman, and I know at least one of the animated movies. But he's great in that role because he's so perfectly arrogant and dislikable, exactly like he needed to be. one of those people who just has too high of an opinion of himself.
I mean, he's like, I feel like every person he meets in that movie, he's looking down his nose at them. And he plays that so perfectly, and you hate him. I mean,
You do.
I mean, it's easy.
And you can't talk about them without talking about everybody's favorite, Dobby, who is played by Toby Jones. And Dobby's introduction is hilarious.
It is.
And he's such a sweet character and so much fun. And I was definitely glad he was one we got to see more of later. He's quite the problem creator in this one until the end, but we'll come back to that when we talk about some of our favorite moments. So last but certainly not least, because they are two of my favorite people in the whole Harry Potter verse, are Arthur and Molly Weasley. So Arthur is played by Mark Williams and Molly is played by Julie Walters, and those two people could not have been more perfect to play these kind and loving parents who not only take care of their gaggle of kids, but they also love and care for Harry and Hermione whenever they're around. So they show a lot of concern and love, and I think that the way that they play those roles is really perfect.
Yeah, they're very endearing, and of course Arthur is he's just more the affable, kind of friendly kind of dad, and then Molly, she's a very loving, but like she's definitely more the disciplinarian, and like they both play off each other very well.
And they feel like real parents to me.
They really do.
That's a good feeling. So this is a good point to come in and talk about some of our favorite moments from the movie. And these are all kind of jumbled up because we thought of them at different moments. So these are certainly in no particular order, just when we thought of them. So returning to Dobby, our initial meeting of Dobby, him coming, popping up in Harry's room, and then of course beating himself up every other sentence because of something that he says. You're beating yourself with the lamp and bumping his head into the dresser, and it always kills me. Daniel Radcliffe's face when he's watching, he's like, no. It's like, stop.
He's like trying to keep him like quiet, and it's not working out.
And his initial horror at like, what is happening? Because he has no concept of what a house elf is in their world, because that's not something he's been introduced to yet.
And that pudding scene with the Dursleys and their guests, like, it's like, you can see like Harry Potter's trying to like stop the pudding from going on the lady's head, and then when it does, just that initial like thing, he's just like, oh, it's such a great moment.
And of course, that's also, before that, gives us one of our greatest lines that's very applicable to our world right now, which is, I'll be up in my room making no noise and pretending I don't exist. Welcome to 2020.
That is 2020 in a nutshell.
So another favorite moment we had is once we get to the Weasleys' house and they're trying to get to Diagon Alley, Harry takes his first trip by Floo Powder. And after they told him very clearly that you must speak precisely and say the words exactly clear, he says
Dagonelli.
And then I always love that Arthur's like, did he just say diagonally? Oh dear.
Oh, it's so perfect because I love it's like with Harry, I mean, it's like very say this very clearly, and then he proceeds to say like something that's not even really close to the word.
Yeah, diagonally.
Dagonelli, like, what happened? Like, it's really funny.
So, along with that, getting to meet Arthur and Molly really, we were meeting Arthur for the first time. We've seen Molly before, but so briefly that we didn't get a lot into her character at that point. But we really get to dive into them in this one. So, of course, the kids have flown the car from rescuing Harry. They show back up at home, and Molly lets them have it immediately.
And then at that point, we meet Arthur.
Yes. And I think his entrance scene is still one of my favorites in the whole series, which is, him coming in and sitting down, and Molly's telling them, those boys flew the car to Surrey and back last night. Did you really? How'd you go?
And then, of course, he proceeds to ask Harry, like, what is the purpose of a rubber duck?
As he's like stuffing pancake into his mouth.
Like, I love my parents, but it would be cool to have parents like them.
Everybody needs to be a Weasley. And then the Burrow itself is just cool, because that's the first magical household we actually get to see. And you get to see all these little bits of magic all over the house. And Ron, of course, says, it's not much, but it's home. And Harry says, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's clear that he's not been around it all that much, and to just see magic, I guess, in everyday kind of action.
Yeah.
I think that was like cool for him.
Well, and I think seeing a home that looked really homey, because I mean, even from an outsider's point of view, there was nothing homey about Privet Drive.
No.
It was very stiff and formal looking and blah.
Yeah.
So another moment that happens in this first scene where we're meeting Weasleys is Ginny's bigger introduction scene. And of course, we also met her briefly in the first movie. But she comes racing down the stairs while they're all eating breakfast and goes, "Mummy, have you seen my jumper?" And then she sees Harry and just makes the perfect meme face. And a meme was born. I love that every time. So I think the next moment Christopher needs to talk about.
So it's when Harry is trying to go in platform 9 3/4 and just slams into the wall and like crashes. And I mean, it's just because I saw a joke about it online. I don't remember where it was, some social media or something somewhere. And it was a still of that. And it was like, "I'm Harry Potter and welcome to Jackass." And it's like, it's the perfect like joke for that moment. I mean, you immediately, picture in your head like the Jackass music kicking in and everything, and like that was just such a funny moment in and of itself. But now, of course, I can't see it without thinking of that. So it's definitely one of my favorite moments.
And it's one that if he doesn't immediately say it, I always look at him while we're watching it. Like, come on, I'm waiting.
And of course, I have to deliver. So there you go.
He does. He's required. Okay, so another moment that we have to enjoy in some capacity is our first meeting of Moaning Myrtle. Because she is a both awkward and hilarious part of not only this movie but others.
Oh, she's something else.
She is. She's a mess, and it's like she's obnoxious, but it's funny because she's so sad and pathetic. I don't know. It's there's something weird there, but she does a really good job with that part. I just always find it really funny that actress was actually much, much older than teenager, and they just thought she was so perfect for it that she did it anyway.
Sometimes you just have to go with the performance itself, and I think that's a case because, it's perfect.
Yes, and I was telling him earlier, I think that needs to be a Halloween costume for me at some point because I have the right hair. I just need to put on the glasses and put my hair in, like, dog ears down low.
That'd be a good one.
All right, so another thing that we have going in this one, of course, going back to Professor Lockhart, is that Professor Lockhart is kind of a buffoon. But he likes to boast about all of these amazing accomplishments that he's had and tell everybody that although he always shows up too late, "Oh, if I had been here, I could have done this." And so one thing that I crack up about, especially as a teacher myself, is the other teachers all throwing shade at him for being ridiculous.
Yes.
They're like, "Oh, but didn't you just say you knew the counter curse that could have saved them?"
Well, of course.
So I always love that, and I always love that they completely throw him under the bus at the end and telling him to go down in the chamber because of course he already knew where it was. He'd known where it was the whole time.
And I love his like thing where he gets thrown under the bus like, "Oh yeah, you know where that's at. You said yes. I'll go get ready. Scamper, scamper, scamper. Start to pack up and leave."
Because we were talking earlier, like, especially Snape throws shade at everybody, but I mean, here he had McGonagall going, he had Professor Sprout going. I mean, they were all giving him side eye. So, along with all of this, of course, we had the Polyjuice Potion moment. And one of my favorite lines takes place during the Polyjuice Potion scene while Ron and Harry are transformed into Crabbe and Goyle. And that's when they're running down the hallway, they're lost, they don't know where the Slytherin common room is, they're getting scolded by Percy Weasley, and along comes Draco to save them. And Draco comes up and sees that Goyle is wearing Harry's glasses. Of course, he doesn't make that connection, but he asks why he's wearing glasses, and he goes, "Oh, I was reading." And then Draco just goes, "I didn't know you could read." Which is great as a line itself, but then I think it was in the special features of maybe that it said that line was ad-libbed because he forgot what he was actually supposed to say. Which makes it all that much better because it was a great reaction.
Yeah, it was like the perfect reaction because it's so throwaway, but it just lands perfectly.
Well, and it works too because Crabbe and Goyle are supposed to be such buffoons anyway, so it was kind of perfect in that moment. So something else we have to deal with in this is the spiders. And spiders are my least favorite thing in the whole wide world.
Yeah, you freak out pretty much.
Yes. But I also woke up with one on my face about 2 weeks ago, so...
That was a rough night.
Still having, like, war flashbacks from that. So anyway, Ron also has a similar feeling about spiders, and they go to Aragog's lair after Hagrid has kind of prodded them and said, hey, if you want to know what's going on, you should just follow the spiders when he's being taken away to Azkaban. So them following his instructions, follow the spiders only to find Aragog, this massive, massive acromantula. And Ron is absolutely terrified, and they're talking to him, and then Ron is like doing this like whimpering thing that he does while Harry's talking, and Harry's just giving him this look, and then he starts looking up, and you see all of these huge spiders coming down and like crawling toward them, and Ron freaks out, completely warranted.
Yes, I would agree. That many spiders, I'm freaking out too.
But I always love when Ron's reaction, I think it was later, once they finally get back to Hagrid's, he says, follow the spiders. Why couldn't it have been follow the butterflies? I love that because it's so relatable to me because I hate spiders so very much. All right, so one of the things we get to deal with in this one also is the diary. So we get to meet Tom Riddle in the diary as Harry is kind of observing the things that Tom is telling him about. And so we get a sense of that charming thing that we were talking about with Voldemort, how he's charming, he's disarming, he's very sure of himself, and the teachers tended to believe what he said. Mm-hmm. You do also see a tad of suspicion of him from Dumbledore at that point, but he was only a professor and not the headmaster at that point, so he didn't have as much say. But meeting him then in the Chamber of Secrets was also huge. Of course, that's just a huge reveal moment we get there.
Yeah. Tom Marvolo Riddle, I am Lord Voldemort.
Which I always think is interesting because the difference in languages, I guess Voldemort's name is different in every language, so that the letters can work out based on what I am, Lord, whatever works out to in another language. That obviously gives you a different set of letters and things to work with. It was also interesting to me in that he does such a good job of playing it off like he's just there to help, or, they can't do anything to help Ginny and she's almost gone. And it takes Harry a moment to kind of come to realization that maybe this isn't right. Maybe this isn't okay.
And then kind of it slowly gets revealed. And then we get introduced to
the basilisk. Your favorite thing, a giant snake.
Yeah. Spiders and snakes. It's like our worst fears come to life in a single movie. Mm-hmm. And yet we like this movie. I don't know why, but I mean, I think the basilisk is awesome. The basilisk is awesome. And I think that's something that could have very easily looked very cheesy, but the design they chose was really good. Yeah, and I was really, because I know like some of it was CGI and some of it was more like practical kind of effects. And I think overall, like, watching, I mean, we just went back and watched this movie a couple weeks ago, maybe. It really didn't, some CGI, like we talked about in the Sorcerer's Stone, like Neville Longbottom, flying around on his broom, like that CGI looks really bad, but on this, still looks really good. I think the effects work still holds up really well on that scene. I think it does, and I don't notice as many egregious moments of questionable CGI in this one. So, also in the process of this, Lockhart gets the memory charm backfired on him with Ron's wand, which again, Kenneth Branagh is genius, but just the way he plays off that, this is a strange sort of place, isn't it? I just love how he looks, do you live here? And then Ron's reaction to it, just like what is with this guy? And then at the end, when they're all flying out of the Chamber of Secrets, it's just like magic! And I was so sorry we never got to see him again like you do in the books, because it was still funny later. So of course, while Harry's fighting the basilisk, the Phoenix Fox comes in to save the day. Mm-hmm. So he first comes in and takes out the basilisk's eyes, and he drops the hat, the sorting hat, which then Harry pulls the Gryffindor sword out of, and then of course Fox also heals him at the end with his tears. So Fox has a lot of moments in this one. And that's after the first time you see him, he bursts into flame and then has to, come out of the ashes again. So the final part in this movie. Yes. Dobby finally gets what he wants, or what he really needed. What he deserves. What really. He deserves, yes.
So Lucius Malfoy comes in. Dumbledore very pointedly says, I hope that none of Tom Riddle's other school things make their way back to Hogwarts. And then Harry puts the sock in the diary and goes to return it to him. And of course, him being him and not wanting things handed to him, he hands it off to Dobby, who then discovers the sock and says, I'm free.
Yes.
Dobby is free. Which, if you don't listen closely in this part, you might not catch it, but Lucius actually goes to cast the killing curse on Harry. And then Dobby says, you must not harm Harry Potter, and then just bam.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, if you listen back, I mean, it's very clear that he's very like garbled as he says. He's like, ah, but it's just like Avada. You hear like the Avada part, like pretty clear if you'll listen. But yeah, he was totally gonna like kill him.
It was like a rage cast too, because he was like, ah.
So, but yeah, Dobby wasn't gonna have any of that.
Nope. And that moment was like, yes.
Such a great payoff. And like I said, Lucius is such a mustache twirling kind of bad guy. I mean, you will meet the same sticky end. Like, it was like, it's both a little cheesy, but it's also perfect for that kind of, like, because I feel like Lucius is kind of that mustache twirling, cheesy kind of bad guy that you don't take that seriously. But later on, there obviously other things will come up, whether they're, Umbridge or, even Lord Voldemort, that you'll take a lot more seriously.
Well, and his arrogance bites him in the rear end on more than one occasion throughout this series. And so that's something that we continually see. And it seems to me, in an odd way, that's something Draco ends up learning from. All right, so finally we have to come to the things that we don't enjoy about this movie.
And it's a short list.
It is a short list. The first thing is that this one feels pretty repetitive compared to the first one. So it's, for the most part, a relatively normal school year. If you look at the books going after that, there's a lot going on that keeps it from feeling like a regular school year. But, I mean, this one, they're still quite young. Things are very contained at school. And so a lot of what we do from kind of their more day-to-day things feels exactly the same as the first. We're going to the library, we're doing research, we're in class, we're having some Quidditch, we're fighting with Draco, we're doing whatever. But
holidays.
And the holidays. And so all of that feels very similar. And so there's a little bit of, I don't know, it's a little bit humdrum at points.
Like they also have to go into the depths, the bowels of Hogwarts to find the thing that's going to, save the thing and save the school. And, Voldemort could come back if, this thing doesn't happen.
True. Yeah, a lot of parallels.
Yeah.
And so it definitely does have that repetitive feel. But also in this one, I feel like the pacing is really off. For as many good moments as there are in there, it feels like there's a lot of dragging moments in between. Yeah.
Sometimes we've watched the director's cut, and sometimes like that seems really long. And, sometimes I will, if we've watched Lord of the Rings for like the third time in 3 months, I'm like, sometimes we'll complain about pacing, but I mean, this really does kind of drag for a little bit to me.
And it always seems to me that the part without Hermione in it is always the part that drags the most.
Probably because it's a lot of exposition on her part.
It is, and I feel like she adds so much to that group dynamic with the three of them that without her, it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
So that part to me is always the section that drags the most, where Ron and Harry are trying to finally put together the pieces on their own of what's happened. I don't think it's really any worse than the first one.
It's very similar to the first one.
It's just very similar. I think the first one just wins out because it's the magic of everything being brand new. Not because it's necessarily really a better movie.
Yeah, I think if you'd put this movie first and kind of done the introduction the same way, and had this story, and then you had the Sorcerer's Stone as the second movie, I think we'd almost say the same thing.
So, like we said in the beginning, this may not be our favorite one by a long shot, but it's still an excellent movie. And I mean, the worst Harry Potter is still better than no Harry Potter, and is still better than a lot of other things. I hope that you enjoyed this review. Please leave us comments below. What did we miss? What else did you love about this movie? What else didn't you like about this movie? Were there things we left out there too? We will be putting out another review next month for Prisoner of Azkaban, so be on the lookout for that. In between time, if you want to chat with us, we're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and we'll be posting 2 videos a week. We will see you next time. I'm Michelle.
I'm Chris.
Have a great, safe rest of the day.
Bye.
Bye.